Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're always so kind to me. Thank you. Welcome to the Barry Bow Show. I'm working in the Sunshine Room Annex today in beautiful suburban Folkcroft, home of America's best crime writer. Chilly outside, cloudy, but it looks like the rain might finally be gone. That damn global warming, Cat. So, Cat, did you watch the Eagles game on Sunday night? No? Well, guess who did? Remember Bert from last week's show on the SKP? You know, the fucktard murderer who escaped from prison and it took law enforcement 14 days to capture him? Yeah, right. Fidelio Cavalcante. Well, our gal Bert, Roberta Powell Kelly, attended the game, live and in person in Tampa. Number 60, by the way, is Chuck Bednarik's number. And that was one hell of a TD pass Hurts threw while I was getting sacked. Good win for the Birds. And speaking about the Birds, I got my Nicky football shirt on because today's the Barry Bow Show is about sports, specifically sports talk radio. But before I get into that, Kat, you're not going to believe this. First of all, I got scammed. And believe it or not, I got scammed by someone very much involved with Philly Sports Talk Radio in the past. Someone who it turns out is a conniving prick of a con man. In today's expose, I'm going to take the Quentin Tarantino circuitous approach. And Tarantino's foot fetish issues aside, you just saw him in that clip from Dusk Till Dawn sucking on Salma Hayek's foot. Next time you watch one of his movies, pay attention. His attached to women's feet manifests itself a lot. That said, he's still one of my heroes. Very few heroes. Off the top of my head, Tarantino, Sly Stallone, and even though I can't see eye to eye with this guy's politics about anything in any way, shape, or form, little Stevie Van Zandt makes the list. Now, when I'm writing, I like to go in chronological order, from point A, point B, and so forth and so on, all the way across the points X, Y, and Z. But Tarantino, when he directs a movie, he likes to jump his timelines all over the place, the here and now, flash ahead, flash back, here and now. So that's what I'm going to do today. So we'll start with a flashback back on February 18th, 2021, a little more than 2.5 years ago. It's around 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm snarled in rush hour traffic on Main Street, Manayunk, when my cell phone rings. Now, I get a lot of crank calls, like somebody telling me how I can lower my interest rates on my credit cards, even though I don't own any credit cards. Or a guy with a thick accent warning me that the IRS has a federal warrant out for my arrest. So I usually avoid the bullshit by not answering the phone. But I'm sitting here bored to tears, so I answer. This caller identifies himself as a police officer, and he says he's trying to locate Barry Bow. Yeah, sure, I say. I'm figuring it's one of my buddies fucking me. Seriously, who is it? I'll give you my number, and you can call back to verify my identity. Who are you? Pete Black with the Penn Police Department. Well, that's the University of Pennsylvania's police department. I drive around that campus a lot, and I start wondering if maybe one of the students complained because I took a run at them when they were jaywalking in the crosswalk. Maybe they saw my license number and filed a complaint. So I ask him, why exactly are you trying to locate this Barry Bow? I'm trying to find out if you know Mount Airy Phil. Now there's a name from the past. Mount Airy Phil. As it works out, someone finds his camera on the Penn campus, and this Officer Black is trying to locate him to return it. He says it's an expensive camera with lots of photos of his family members. Now let's jump back a lot further. It's around 1990, when I returned from St. Croix back to the Philly area. Sports talk radio is brand new. I love it. Listen to it all the time. Tom Brookshire, Eskin, Cataldi, Al Morgani, Tony Bruno, Steve Fredericks, Missinelli, the Cuz, Mark Farzetta. I call in from time to time. I get to know some of the guys. I become Mac and Mac's crime expert during the O.J. Simpson saga. I called Farzetta one night and win a contest to get Phillies tickets. This call-in contest is about suggesting some sort of athletic competition involving two celebrities. A no-brainer for me. Salma Hayek. Now, we just watched her get her feet sucked by Tarantino. She pops right into my brain. And Eva Mendes. And let's have them mud wrestle. In fact, let's have them mud wrestle in the nude. I call Farzy, and almost as soon as the words come out of my mouth, he tells me I win. No one's going to beat that. Now, in addition to the on-air host, there are regular callers. Baseball George, Jose from Norristown, Mount Airy Phil, there's that name. They call every day. I'm Barry from Folcroft. And I get to know some of these guys, either on social media, emails, whatever. In fact, I get together with Baseball George. He invites me to a luncheon honoring Bobby Shantz. And we have an outing at Philly Park Racetrack. Now, Officer Black, he says he ran a Google search and found a blog post that links my name to Mount Airy Phil. Now here's how that works. Like I said, Mount Airy Phil is a regular caller to WIP Sports Talk. Sometimes he calls himself Phil from Mount Airy. But then sometime in the early 2000s, a new kid shows up on the block. A new sports talk show. A new sports talk station. The Fanatic at 97.5 on the FM dial. A few on-air hosts jumped ship from WIP to the Fanatic. Missinelli, the Cuz, Farzy, and then, lo and behold, there's a new on-air host on the Fanatic, Mount Airy Phil. He parlays his exposure from WIP and gets his own show on the Fanatic. Now, that's success. I listen to his show. I call a few times. We talk. We send emails to each other. We communicate. Now, let's slide up to 2015. I'm listening to the Fanatic one day, and I hear shows I already heard. And it happens again and again. What's going on? Wasting my time. I find out they got a new guy running the station, Matt Nahigian. He's trying to compete with WIP, but he's taking the cheap route. He's using recorded shows that already aired. He doesn't have to pay for on-air hosts. That way, keeps the budget low. He's cutting the budget. But he's screwing his listeners in the process. So I make a few phone calls, send some emails, and eventually get in touch with Nahigian. And I offer some constructive criticism, as my mother would say, about the previously recorded shows that he airs. But he's a know-it-all tight ass. He don't want to hear shit. He knows best. So I write a blog called Screw Our Listeners. I call Mount Airy Phil and mention it to him on the air. We trade some emails, but Phil's sticking up for his boss. He says all the guys at the station are overworked, and Nahigian's just trying to get them some time off. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, while Mount Airy Phil is vacationing on the beach down the shore, Nahigian fires his ass without warning, and Mount Airy Phil falls off the face of the earth like Punxsutawney Phil after seeing his shadow on Groundhog's Day. I never heard his name mentioned again until this phone call from Officer Black. I have no clue how to find Mount Airy Phil. Now, my buddy Bill Furman runs Philly Press Box Radio. It's popular on Facebook, and he has a weekly show on social media, YouTube and other places. So I figure perhaps one of his followers might be able to provide some insight to help me locate Mount Airy Phil and help him get his camera back. I put a post up there asking for help. And sure enough, one of Bill's listeners, Fred Hugo, gives me the info I need. By the way, Bill informs me that the listener, who wants identified as Fred Hugo, is in fact Fred Burns III. So, Fred Burns III, thanks for your almost instant help back then. If memory serves, Mount Airy Phil's daughter's car was either broken into or stolen, and somehow the Penn cops find the camera. I give them the info, they contact him, and they return the camera. And Mount Airy Phil gets in touch with me, and he thanks me. So, Cat, so far so good. Now let's jump ahead to the present. If you've been following me on Facebook or Twitter, you know I'm posting about the Phillies' 1964 baseball season every day with the day-by-day updates. Mount Airy Phil becomes a Facebook friend after I help him get his camera back, and he often comments about my Phillies posts. He remembers that season inside out, and sometimes he calls me, and we chat about it on the phone. Now, on September 7th, I get a missed call and a text message. Call me, Phil, from the Fanatic days. I don't get around to returning his call. 5 days pass, and then he calls me again on the night of September 12th. And guess what? He's doing some sort of garage space or warehouse space clean out somewhere around 21st and Lehigh. If you're a baseball fan, old-time baseball fan, that's where Shibe Park / Connie Mack Stadium used to be. That's where the Phillies played. That's where the A's played. That's where the Eagles played. And he comes across 2 stadium seats from Connie Mack Stadium. He's going to give me those 2 seats. He has a truck, and guys are loading them up right now with a bunch of other stuff for a few other people. He just needs my address. He says this is his way of paying me back. Pay me back for what? Well, here's another flashback. But I can't remember exactly when. But he calls me a while back. He's in Georgia or somewhere down south. And he's either close to dying, or he was in an accident, or he's in jail, or both, or all 3. I don't remember exactly what. But in any case, he's in dire straits. And he needs money to get back to Philly so he can start putting his life back together. He's very convincing. Remember, as far as I know, he falls off the face of the earth when he gets fired. And this is our first contact in years. I usually refrain from these situations, but I feel sorry for him. I send him some money. PayPal, I guess. $300 or $400. And he thanks me. He says, you really came through and saved my ass. So now, he's paying me back by giving me these 2 seats. They're on their way. All he needs is $60 to pay the delivery guys. He asked me if I have Venmo. By a remarkable coincidence, I just opened a Venmo account earlier that evening so that I could pay for my weekly football pool. He texts me, at Mount Airy Phil is my Venmo. I text him back. What do? Wait, I'll do it for you. Easy. So I go online to my new Venmo account, and there's a request from Mount Airy Phil for $60 for seats. And I make a couple clicks and send him $60. I immediately tell my favorite son, Ed, about the 2 seats. That's a favorite son and I at the Grand Canyon, way back when I was writing Born to Be Wild. So Ed goes on eBay, looks it up, and he says the seats are worth thousands. But my favorite grandson, Zach, and Ed's son, Zach, he has a birthday coming up. That's the 3 of us at a wrestling match a few years back. And Ed says the seats would be a nice fit for the recreation room in Zach's new townhouse. So that's the plan. The Connie Mack Stadium seats will be Zach's birthday present. And I go into the living room to wait for the truck to arrive with the seats. In fact, I wait for 3 hours, but no truck never arrives. Double negative on purpose. So I call Phil the next day. He answers, but he pretends he's someone else. And he says, you called the wrong number, buddy. Bullshit, Phil. I recognize your voice. So he says he's blocking my number. And he unfriends me on Facebook. And this entire premeditated scam is for exactly $60 fucking dollars. A lousy $60. If my mother were still alive, she'd use the harshest insult she ever used to describe Mount Airy Phil. Ingrate. So, from where I'm sitting, Mount Airy Phil, Phil from Mount Airy, Phil Allen, that's his real name. You're a cock-sucking, motherfucking ingrate. And I want the whole world to know. I want the whole world, all you millions of fans out there in Barry Bow Show land, I want you all to know. Spread the word about this low-life, conniving, ingrate of a prick. And so, Cat, that's the word Thunderbird. So that's it for today. Might as well plug Birth of the Birds, the story about how the Eagles got started, and a whole bunch of interesting developments along the way. Should be available at Amazon by this weekend. Thanks for stopping in today. Until next time, see you.